And we're back once again for episode 46 of The Horror Guys. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Brian.
And we're here to talk about some horror movies.
4 movies and a short, back to the old format.
We saw a Serbian film, and we saw Thirst, and we saw The Secret of the Blue Room. We saw Captain Clegg. I didn't say the years. We'll say the years.
Well, okay. Secret of the Blue Room was black and white Universal from 1933. We're rewinding and picking up some other of the Universal films nowadays. Night Creatures is also known as Captain Clegg. It's a Hammer film from 1962.
Captain Clegg makes more sense as the title, I think.
There were night creatures.
There were night creatures,
yeah.
Sort of.
The Korean subtitled movie Thirst from 2009. And 2010's A Serbian Film. Woot. And these are all over the place. I like some of them. I didn't like some of them.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. But this week we'll start out with an announcement. We want to hear from you. Give us a call on the phone. 937-453-1575. 937-453-1575. Give us a call. It'll go straight to voicemail. Leave us any message you want. If it's something we can put on the show, we'll play your message next week and respond to it. We'll take your questions, your comments, and your suggestions. Give us a call. Let us talk. Of course, you can email us anytime. horrorguysmail@gmail.com. And it'll come straight to us. And of course, we answer emails fast. horrorguysmail@gmail.com. Not just plain horror guys at. horrorguysmail@gmail.com. And of course, go to horrorguys.com and read all our reviews as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Audio podcast. If you don't have time to watch us on YouTube, there's a weekly. The same show goes out every week on audio. Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, all the usual places.
Wherever fine podcasts are sold.
And of course, if you're listening on one of those podcast places, we do also have a YouTube show. But you can find us on YouTube, believe it or not.
I believe it.
I do too. I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that takes us up to The Secret of the Blue Room.
Boy, that room was sure blue, too.
It's a black and white film. Had to use a lot of imagination to get a blue room out of that.
I thought that was a funny touch.
It's all blue. Look how blue it is.
Yeah.
And it's black and white.
I'm impressed. Yeah.
Directed by Kurt Newman, written by Eric Filippi and William Hurlbut, stars Lionel Atwill, Gloria Stewart, and Paul Lucas. 1 hour, 6 minutes. Amazon link below. Did you like it?
I did overall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess it qualifies as horror.
It was pretty tame as far as horror goes, though.
And with that phone number or email or any of those other contact places, we have a question for you.
What makes horror? Because some of these things we keep watching don't seem very horrifying.
We've seen things like Boris Karloff's The Climax, Boris Karloff in the Tower of London.
That just seemed like a historical drama.
A lot of these are called horror in the genre.
Yeah,
but they're not scary.
They're
exactly.
in these horror packages. This is one of them.
What is horror to you? I think this one qualifies, but just sort of marginally.
More so than
Yeah.
More so than some of the others. Yeah.
So yeah, give us a call or email us or tweet us or whatever. Let us know what you think. What is horror to you?
I thought this was more of a horror than Captain Clegg, actually.
Well, we'll get into that when we get into that one.
Okay.
It kind of was and it kind of wasn't. It's a lot like the She-Wolf last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A group of guests gather for midnight dinner. It's Irene's birthday celebration. Irene's father points out that the 3 men there don't love her as much as he does.
She's 21.
It is 21? Okay.
And all 3 of these guys are hot for her.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So you know the best way to have a good dinner party is to invite your 3 boyfriends along. Frank is a reporter, Walter is a soldier, and Tommy, the youngest of the 3, proposes to Irene during a break. Irene then sings to the group. Irene is played by Gloria Stewart, who is both the old lady from Titanic and the young lady from The Invisible Man in The Old Dark House.
Mm-hmm.
This Old House.
This Old House. That's a different show.
Not This Old House. Frank points out that this is a cold, windy night, just perfect for ghost stories. 'Tis a dark and stormy night.
And stormy night, yeah.
Tommy brings up the subject of the Blue Room. The room's been locked for 20 years. Irene's father, Robert, tells him the story about how 3 people died there. His sister died there. His best friend died there. A detective died in there as well. All 3 of them died at 1 o'clock, and all in the same room, and the door was locked from the inside each time. A
Locked room mystery. Mm-hmm.
There's a knock on the door, and someone the butler recognizes once in, but the butler tells him to come back later. It's not a good time, and slams the door on him.
Out in the rain.
Yeah, it's raining. It's a dark and stormy night.
Yeah. Go ahead out in the rain some more.
Young Tommy wants to prove that he's brave. He wants to sleep in the blue room that night. He dares the other 2 guys to do the same. Frank agrees. He thinks he can get a good story out of it, and Walter just doesn't want to look like a coward.
And at first I thought that he meant all 3 of us will spend the night in the room.
Slumber party.
Yeah. Boys' night out or whatever. No, he meant consecutive nights.
Yeah. I guess they all kind of live there?
No, they don't. No.
Paul, the butler, overhears all this and looks shocked. He's been the keeper of the key for the blue room for all this time.
Nobody goes into the blue room.
Nobody ever has. Paul unlocks the door and they all go in. It's Tommy's night to go first, so the others leave him alone in there. Frank notices Robert's car driving away after 1 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, they spend the night too, but in a different room.
Yeah, they all spend the night.
Yeah. Well, it's a big old house, and
Yeah.
they're friendly with Dad, and Dad lets all the gals' boyfriends spend the night. And then he'll act surprised when she gets pregnant.
It was a different time.
It was a different time.
You don't get pregnant in black and white movies.
No.
Or in blue rooms. The next morning, Tommy doesn't answer the door. They break in, and Tommy's nowhere to be found.
Vanished.
The chauffeur says the car hasn't been out since yesterday afternoon, but Walter notices there's mud all over the fender. Somebody's lying.
Mm-hmm.
Irene goes in the blue room, sees a strange man, and faints. Frank says he'll sleep in there tonight and wait for that man to come back. He takes a 6-shooter with him, and suddenly a shot rang out.
On a dark and stormy night.
A shot rang out. And Frank is shot dead, but not by his own gun. A little later, they find a cat in the room, but there's no way a cat could get in that room. Everyone in the household, including the servants...
Cats are weaselly, though. Cats just...
They got their ways.
Yeah.
Especially at that one last week.
Yeah.
Including the servants, are collected in the blue room. The police asks each of them a few questions. The maid accuses the chauffeur, and she saw him take the car out last night. The night Tommy went missing. She saw a strange man leave the blue room, along with Robert, before the gunshot went off. Robert says he was in bed at the time, but the inspector also learns that Frank was fully dressed in suit and tie when he met the others in the blue room.
So he likes to sleep in a suit, you know?
An unrumpled suit.
He finds it comfortable.
The maid mentions that she saw Paul flashing a flashlight out the window like a signal after midnight the previous night. These people are all suspects.
Yeah, they're all acting suspicious. Got something going on.
The chauffeur admits he did have the car out as he was seeing his girlfriend in the next town, which is why the maid has it in for him too, because she thought she was the only one.
Mm-hmm.
The police captures Paul's secret friend from earlier. It turns out he's the man who attacked Irene and walked out with Robert. The man is actually Robert's brother, and it's a secret, but he's also Irene's father.
Yeah, this whole time,
which no one else knows.
Irene has thought that this was her father, and he's not. He's her uncle who raised her.
Paul, the butler, is the only person who knows the truth. Walter says he'll sleep in the room tonight. He'll pretend to be bait to see what happens. The inspector grudgingly agrees, but he also has made some plans on the side.
Mm-hmm.
A secret door opens up behind Walter, and someone shoots him in the head from behind. It turns out it was a dummy that got shot.
Sucker.
There are more shots in the dark as
Trick
Walter
the killer.
chases down the unseen villain.
In the secret passage that's in the walls.
Of course, there's a secret passage to how the cat got in there.
Mm-hmm.
The inspector finds them both in the tunnels and shoots the perpetrator in the hand. Shoot the gun right out of his hand.
Yeah, he did.
They all come upstairs into the light, and it was Tommy all along.
In disguise.
He
faked his disappearance.
He murdered Frank. He saw this as a way to eliminate the competition for Irene's love. He found the secret door and knew he could use it to take advantage of the room's history. The police take him away, leaving Irene to be with Walter, who looks old enough to be her father. The end. Walter was kind of old.
He was old enough to be her father. Yeah.
Young suitors.
Yes.
No, not so much.
It was a different time. Yeah.
Okay, and you said you did like it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Got any good notes there?
No, I don't really.
Okay.
Yeah.
I spotted that the house was the same one used in the Old Dark House the previous year.
Oh, right.
The Old Dark House was 32. That was one with Boris Karloff and the makeup where he
Secret
didn't
passage.
talk.
Still has a secret passage.
It still does.
Yeah.
This is really more of a mystery than a straight-up horror film, but it was well done, and I really hadn't guessed it was Tommy. A lot of these things, they project it, and you know what's going on.
I didn't guess it ahead of time.
I didn't guess it either.
Yeah.
Well you will, because we spoiled it for you.
Yeah.
Like the inspector, I thought it was going to turn out to be Robert's doing, but that wasn't the case. The acting here is
a good guy.
Yeah, the acting here is mostly good, with the exception of a couple of the servants who played minor roles. That maid really overacted it.
A little bit. Yeah.
We finally get to see Lionel Atwill play something other than a police inspector, and Onslow Stevens, who played Frank, was Dr. Edelman in The House of Dracula. So all these people are reused. And of course, Gloria Stewart from a couple other things. Universal loved using the same actors.
Sure. Get them under contract. Yeah.
I'd never seen this before, but I think it was very worthwhile.
Yeah, I thought so.
A little bit harder to get. Not as hard as that one last week with the cat, but yeah, this was a little tricky.
What else did you see?
I saw some night creatures.
I saw some night creatures, too.
And I also saw
Briefly.
Captain Clegg in the same movie.
1962.
Yeah, it was Hammer film made in England, obviously. And they called it Night Creatures over there. But when they brought it to America, they called it Captain Clegg, thinking a pirate theme would be a little more attractive to the people. Directed by Peter Graham Scott, written by Anthony Hines, Barbara Harper, stars Peter Cushing, Yvonne Romaine, and Patrick Allen. Hour and 27 minutes. Also, not on the main credits, but it also did have Oliver Reed in it as not a really small role.
Yeah, I don't know why he wouldn't have been in the main credits.
He wasn't a big deal back then.
Yeah.
This would have been after the werewolf movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was bigger than Yvonne Romaine or Patrick Allen.
Yeah.
Okay, spoilers ahead.
Did you like it?
Ahoy, there be spoilers.
Did you like it?
Meh. It's one of the weaker Hammers so far.
Yeah.
Anything with Peter Cushing is entertaining. I'll watch it.
Peter Cushing was such a masterful actor. And
once in a while he got wound up with Drek like this.
Yeah, that's the thing. When mediocre movies happen to great actors.
And even so, his acting in this was pretty good.
Yeah. I especially noticed.
He shifted from character to character.
How good he was
well.
in this. Yes.
We start out aboard a ship in 1776. A crewman has committed a crime. He attacked Captain Clegg's wife. So Captain Clegg, an unseen pirate, he's seen from the back, orders the man's tongue be cut out and that he be left behind on the nearest island. Credits roll. So we
And there's a reason we don't see Captain Clegg at that point.
It didn't really jump out to me that we didn't see his face then.
Oh, it
became kind of obvious later.
Yeah, it was kind of obvious, I thought. Yeah.
Credits roll. So we fast forward a few years to 1792, which is 16 years later, and we see the grave of Captain Clegg. We also hear the legend of the marsh phantoms who strike fear into all who cross their paths. A man runs through the swamps, and he encounters numerous horsemen wearing what look like glow-in-the-dark skeleton costumes.
And those were pretty cool, actually. And the horses were even painted in glow-in-the-dark bones.
Immediately I knew that, oh, look, those are guys in black suits with glow-in-the-dark bones on them. Like, you've seen Halloween costumes like that. It's not an unusual thing. But these were supposed to be the real monsters, and I thought that was kind of lame.
Well, people thought they were the real monsters. Having that chase after you at night, and you're a superstitious, simple folk.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, here's a super secret spoiler for you. It was just guys in costumes.
Yeah, but people were freaked out by them and thought they were real. And,
yeah. So the man runs from them for a little while. He falls in the lake and drowns. We cut to a church where Peter Cushing is the priest. He explains how lucky his parishioners are, and it sounds like the town is doing pretty well. They've got some decent income going on there.
Yeah, that's quite a pep talk he gives.
Yeah?
Yeah. Quit being so miserable. You got it good.
Meanwhile, outside, troops are getting out of boats. Everything is going well in town. You're all doing great. Stop being so miserable. The only thing that could screw up our happiness is if the troops were to come to town.
And guess who comes to town?
Meanwhile, outside, troops are getting out of the boats. A boy alerts some of the men in the church. The soldiers start going from house to house looking for something. They tear apart the local bar, but they don't find anything. They bring in the mulatto, the man who lost his tongue earlier, and now he's sort of a human bloodhound who can sniff out what they're looking for. That was just weird.
That was weird.
He's like their bloodhound dog.
Yeah,
Yo, dog.
like literally.
This.
Yeah,
literally a dog.
Treating him like a dog, yeah.
They find a hidden cellar. Inside, they explain that they're looking for illegal drinks, but they don't find it because it's all hidden in a secret cave.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Collier, the leader of the soldiers, wants to see Tom Ketch, who unfortunately turns out to be the man who died last night. He was the one who told Captain Collier that the town was smuggling alcohol. Collier doesn't believe in the night phantoms.
But he believes in fake alcohol. Bootleg alcohol.
Well, yeah. Reverend Bliss storms in, and he reminds everyone who's in charge of this town. When he's up on the podium giving his sermon, he's the nicest, sweetest old guy. And now he comes in and he's like, "I'm in charge here. You do it the way I say it. And you know what's going on."
Mm-hmm.
And he's a little more brusque now.
Yeah.
He instructs everyone to not cooperate with the soldiers in any way. He's a lot bossier now than he was in the pulpit. The gentle preacher persona is just something of an act. There's no room at the inn, by design, but the soldiers have to stay somewhere. They all walk by Captain Clegg's grave, and Collier explains that he chased Clegg all over the world, but never caught him. That evening, Squire Cobtree lets the soldiers stay in his barn, which really irritates Reverend Bliss, who wanted him run out of town. All the soldiers are partying outside when the tongueless bloodhound man spots Reverend Bliss and attacks him. Why would he do this?
Why would he do this?
There's one logical reason.
It was quick to figure out why.
Yeah, at this point I had it guessed.
Yeah, he recognizes that he's Captain Clegg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't know this yet.
We don't know this officially.
Although if you're watching and paying attention, you've got it pretty well figured out by now.
It's pretty obvious.
A man runs into town claiming to have seen the marsh phantoms, and all the soldiers go out to find them. Meanwhile, all the villagers smuggle out what's left of their contraband, but not before Mr. Rash kills one of the soldiers. Captain Collier, Mr. Rash, he does things rashly. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Collier figures out that the terrified man was just a distraction, and they all turn back to town. The next morning, Collier finds the dead soldier, and the mulatto has vanished. Mulatto, is that like an insulting word? It's like half-breed, isn't it?
Was that what they were referring to him as that,
yeah,
though?
It says so right in IMDb. That's his character's name.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's no longer...
Well, I guess it's no worse than calling him a bloodhound dog.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's not very appropriate to call somebody a mulatto.
Yeah, that's the official name here. So.
Okay. All right. And I didn't realize that.
Yeah. He's outside. It turns out the mulatto has vanished. He's outside digging up Captain Clegg's grave, which is empty. The mulatto then sneaks into Reverend Bliss's house and attacks him again. They fight, and the man breaks out a window and runs off. Where could he go? Mr. Rash finds Captain Clegg's will. These people are always pulling out somebody's will.
Yeah.
Which leaves everything to his daughter Imogene, who works for Rash and is his ward. He tells all this to Imogene. She runs to Bliss, who confirms that, yep, it's true. And then she tells her fiancé Harry about Mr. Rash. Harry is Oliver Reed.
Oliver Reed.
And of course he always plays like the hot-tempered guy who wants to beat people up.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry goes over there and threatens Rash. Rash turns Harry into Collier, who has his men brutally work over Harry. Rash starts to give Clegg's will to Collier as evidence, but Harry grabs it and throws it in the fire.
So much for that.
Yep. We see the soul. I'm not sure what that will would have proven anyway. He left all that stuff to his daughter. There's his daughter. She didn't do anything wrong.
No,
so
she didn't.
What's the crime there?
No crime. I don't know. Yeah.
We see the soldiers leading Harry out into the swamp, and also see the phantoms riding toward them. The phantoms attack and rescue Harry. Then they ride right into town, and at this point it's clear that they really are just the townsmen in costumes.
No.
One of them is Bliss, who takes Harry into the church.
And they get married.
Bliss says all he cares about is Imogene's happiness. Why would he care about her so much? So Harry should get her, and the two of them should leave town at once. Bliss performs a marriage ritual, marrying Harry and Imogene.
And boy, Harry got better quick. He got beat up
Beaten
bad.
nearly to death, and he looks pretty good there at the wedding.
Pretty good there at the wedding, yeah.
The soldiers break into the church, but Harry and Imogen are already gone.
Uh-huh.
Collier Collier interrogates Bliss. He asks Bliss where he lived before he came to this town. Collier suggests that the mulatto would recognize Clegg if he saw him.
Mm-hmm.
He accuses Bliss of being Captain Clegg. It's you, I know it's you.
Mm-hmm.
Clegg calls for support from the villagers. There's a battle between the villagers and the soldiers, and Clegg is shot in the back. But he does get away and hides in the coffin factory. The problem is, the mulatto is there hiding as well, and Clegg is finally really killed. They place him in his already dug up, open, empty grave and cover him over. The end. Did you like it?
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's okay. I liked him in it.
He's good. His acting is good.
Cushing
The rest of the movie is very blah.
Yeah.
Well, there's secret doors, creatures in the marsh, coffin factories, pirates, smugglers, murder, and romance. What's not to like?
What's not to like? And yet, all that, and it's kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
Kind of blah.
It's really
got
not
all those elements.
Yeah. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. It's just not that good.
Yeah.
It's really not completely clear if Clegg had really reformed or not. Smuggling alcohol isn't really the same as piracy, but he was still guilty of his former crimes. Mm-hmm. He was also guilty of leading the Phantoms, which resulted in Tom Ketch's death, so he's not completely a good guy.
Not completely.
Yet he's not a pirate anymore either.
Yeah.
And there's no real monsters in this film, although I thought the Phantoms might turn out to be real in the end.
Nah.
It was obvious that they were guys in costume to me, but...
No, they just really were.
Yeah, that's really what it was.
Yeah.
Still, even though we got Scoobied again, Peter Cushing and Oliver Reed are always fun to watch, and the movie was decent. Yeah, a lot of these old movies Scooby-Doo us.
Yeah, they do. Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
I'd have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Yep.
Yeah. It's always the old man with the mask on. He didn't wear a mask in this one.
No. But he wore a disguise.
Yeah.
Yeah, priest disguise.
Did you watch any short films this week?
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day from 2019.
And what a strange little movie it was.
It was.
Yeah.
Written and directed by August Aguilar, starring Gracie Dembski, Marianne Fisher, Dan Bush, Martin James, Donna Madison. 13 minutes. YouTube link below.
And you should watch it.
Yeah, it's 13 minutes. It's short.
I give it a thumbs up.
Cindy and Samantha go inside Cindy's house. She says her mother's inside, and Samantha wants to give her a Mother's Day cake. Samantha, the friend, sits down to wait while Cindy gets the mother's caretaker and Cindy's brother, Jonas. The caretaker lets the girl's younger brother out of his hidden, locked closet, and the two go in to introduce themselves to Samantha. Jonas has a huge claw mark on his face, which I'm not sure about this claw mark. It's like cloth taped to his face. Jonas has a huge claw mark. Mother can't come upstairs. She likes it dark and cool in the basement, we're told. The caretaker brings them juice, and they all act weird.
Very weird.
Before the juice, even.
Yeah.
Samantha starts getting dizzy, which in most films usually means you've been drugged. In this one, too. And she wakes up in Jonas's little prison, and things go downhill from there.
It had a real Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe to it.
Yes, it did. Very much so.
The special effects were a little bit hit and miss. It was
very cheaply made.
There's a human bite effect that really I thought was really, really good. Some of the others, they're there.
It's not perfect. It's very low budget. It's super low budget, but keeping that in mind, it's pretty decent.
Yeah, and decent acting, and
it's got a little bit of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing going on with the family characters. Yeah, and there's not much here that you haven't seen before, but it's all well done.
Yeah,
for 13 minutes, I'd say give it a shot.
Yeah, thumbs up. Watch it. Yeah. Good work, guys.
Yeah. And that takes us to our international horror feature of the week.
Which one?
Korean film from 2009 called
that
Thirst.
International film.
Also known as Bakjwi.
Technically two international.
Technically Serbian was, it was.
Because Serbia is a foreign country.
Yeah.
Foreign to us.
We got lots of four in this one.
Anyway, Thirst. Yeah.
Thirst, yes. Directed by Chan-wook Park. Written by Emil Zola and Chan-wook Park. Stars Kang Ho Song, Ok Bin Kim and Hee Jin Choi. Those are actually not too hard to say.
This was the first Korean mainstream film to feature full frontal male nudity.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I read that somewhere.
I don't remember that even being in it. I didn't notice it too much.
It's in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 hours and 15 minutes, and it's a long one.
I think everybody gets naked in it at some point.
Yeah, that's pretty much true, yeah.
A lot of nudity in it.
Yeah.
Blood. A lot of blood.
So, would you like it?
No. I say that without hesitation. See, we watched it one night, and I kept falling asleep. I just could not. It's not a soothing movie, and yet it just bored me. And reading subtitles, and I kept nodding off. And like halfway through, Brian's like, "Do you want to just finish it tomorrow night?" I was like, yeah, good idea. And so tomorrow, the next night, same thing. I wasn't even that sleepy, but this movie just, it didn't do anything for me.
It is very slow.
Yeah.
Like I said, 2 hours, 15 minutes. It's a slow build. I was entertained throughout. I thought it was actually very good. But yeah, I do understand where you're coming from.
I'd give it a 1.
A lot of stuff happens in this movie. It's just very slow paced.
Uh-huh.
And of course, the subtitles don't do it any favors for Americans.
Yeah.
All right, well, here we go. A priest, Sang-hyun, comes into the hospital room to visit a dying man. The man talks about giving cake to some starving people 30 years ago, and he wonders if God will remember it 30 years later. The man soon goes into some kind of a rest, and the nurse and priest do CPR. The man ends up going into a coma, but doesn't die.
And isn't it weird that the priest had to help with that? It's a
If
hospital.
he was there and the doctor wasn't around, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that priests are necessarily like CPR. I don't know that priests are necessarily CPR certified, but maybe they are. If you work in a hospital, it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, maybe. That was his thing, visiting sick people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to, at teaching college, I had to learn it at one point. It never came up, but I could have done it.
Mm-hmm.
So the man goes into a coma but doesn't die. Later, Sang-hyun does confession for a suicidal nurse. A patient tells him he wants to go to a special lab that is doing miraculous things, and Sang-hyun says he's tired of all the patients dying. A little later on, he goes on vacation to that very same lab, where they work to cure...
Worst vacation ever.
It really is, yeah. You can tell he's one of these, good guys. Well, he beats himself in his spare time.
Mm-hmm.
Self-flagellation.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like a very
punishing his sinful flesh.
I guess he's Catholic, right, with that outfit?
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't know that all Catholics do that.
Some do.
But he goes on vacation to the lab where they work to cure a rare disease called the Curse of Basura. He volunteers for a dangerous experiment to test a possible cure. The doctor wants him to make sure he's in his right mind for volunteering for this, because it's really dangerous.
Yeah, really.
They give him the treatment in hazmat suits and in a clean room.
Mm.
It's clearly not something any sane person would want to try.
It doesn't seem like it. For a good cause.
Yeah.
Mm.
A month passes and his blisters are spreading. He's got the disease and he's going to die. Sucks to be him.
Mm-hmm.
One day he's playing a flute and he fills it with a gallon of blood. He just oozes out the holes.
Out the holes of the... Yeah.
He gets a transfusion to replace all that he's lost. He's pronounced dead, but just a moment later he gets up again. That's not normal.
That's not normal.
6 months later, he leaves the hospital covered in bandages. He is now famously known as the Bandaged Saint.
He was the only survivor out of 500 volunteers.
Actually, they say at the hospital it was 50. I think the 500, they start exaggerating it. His legend grows.
Oh, okay.
But 50, that's still pretty good.
Okay.
After a while, he starts looking more and more normal and healthy, and the bandages come off. He's invited to a dinner with the family of Kang Woo, someone he helped in the hospital, and Sang-hyun mentions that he can smell blood. The girl in the room just happens to be having her period.
How embarrassing for her.
And nobody else smells it, just him.
Yeah.
Sang-hyun helps the girl, Taiju, who is ignored and abused by her family who adopted her as a baby. That night, his hearing gets super sensitive and he passes out from the pain. Meanwhile, Taiju fantasizes about killing her adopted brother / sort of husband, Kang Woo. He's laying there asleep as she takes these scissors and just stabs right over his face. Over and over and over.
Yeah.
Morning comes, and we can see the sunlight burning into Sang-hyun's bare back as he lays on the floor. His blisters have returned, so the bandages go back on. He gives last rites to an accident victim who is gushing blood, and he very quickly notices all that blood. He gets some on his fingers, and he licks it all up. Next thing we see is Sang-hyun sucking blood out of IV tubes like a straw, and his blisters go away very quickly. He's a full-fledged vampire now.
Mm-hmm. Gets sick when he doesn't have the blood, and then it cures him again.
Yep. Sang-hyun encounters Taiju one more night while she's out running barefoot, and he can see the blood pulsing through her veins. She's wearing this like low-cut thing, and he's looking down here, and you can see it blop, 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 which I thought was a neat effect.
I missed that. I slept through that. I slept through a lot of this.
They kiss. They have sex, but are interrupted by her family screaming for her to come downstairs and do some chores. Taiju starts volunteering at the hospital on the days when Sang-hyun works there. They start regularly having sex during his slow times at the hospital. He bites her, and she likes it. He lets her watch him suck out a patient's blood, and she freaks out, but she gets over it pretty quickly. Gotta have lunch.
Yeah.
His blind, elderly mentor priest wants to become a vampire so that he can see again. This irritates Sang-hyun, and he quits the priesthood and moves in with Taiju's family. Taiju is padlocked in her bedroom with her brother so that she can't get out. He's not really her brother. He's an adopted brother who sort of takes her on as sort of a pseudo-husband kind of thing. It's a little twisted.
It's a little bit ew.
It's a lot ew.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to mind.
She minds.
Yeah. So she can't get out. She's locked in with him. We see that Sang-hyun sleeps in day and a wardrobe laying on its side. Coffins are kind of creepy. What you do, you lay down in the closet, you open up the lid, and close it down.
Yep.
Simple.
Easy. Yeah.
Sang-hyun wants to kill Taiju's brother, Kang-woo, but she keeps talking him out of it, until he finally gets to the breaking point and removes him from the game.
And she's kind of okay with that.
Yeah, she didn't want to make it happen, but she's okay when it's done.
Yeah, she is.
Sang-hyun's blisters return, and he soon finds out that he has a group of cult-like followers. And this is the part I didn't quite get. How did these... I guess because he miraculously came back from the dead. He's got like this cult that follows him around.
Yeah,
But we hardly ever see this cult.
Well, they pop up once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He eventually kills his priest mentor and drinks him dry, solving the blister problem again. He's still very unwilling to kill anyone, although by now he's killed at least 2 people. He then starts feeding off Taiju. Kang-woo's mother drinks herself into a heart attack. They can't find the body. She drinks a lot more and keels over. They still haven't found Kang-woo's body, and Sang-hyun smells him everywhere. They start seeing him everywhere, which allows for a little bit of comedic action. The 2 of them are laying in bed having sex, and suddenly they both see him laying between them, dripping wet with his rock on him, and
Not really there.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Taiju lets it slip that Kang-woo never actually laid a hand on her. She had been claiming he abused her. Sang-hyun wants to know why she wanted him dead then. And he only killed the man because she said he beat her. She loses her mind and wants Sang-hyun to kill her, which he does. He then sucks her dry. Of course, then he feeds her corpse some of his own blood, which does what vampire blood usually does. She recovers quickly. She starts draining men right away, right and left, which, of course, he doesn't approve of this, because he gets volunteers from his cult to feed him. She has no problem killing humans, but he does, and they fight over it quite a bit. He feels the guilt for every person she kills, and she kills a lot, so he drives them out to the beach late at night and throws away the car keys. Then the sun comes up. The end. Of course, there's a lot of humor there at the end, too, as she tries to get in the trunk and under the car and stuff like that. I thought it was had a lot of funny stuff in it. You are very meh.
Yeah.
The blisters and gore are very well done makeup. It's a very bloody, sucky, licky movie. You hear lots of that.
Slurping noises, yeah.
The flying and jumping scenes are really well done, I assume with wires like in a karate movie.
Yeah, you didn't really touch on that much. He's got super strength.
Yeah, he does all the vampire stuff.
Oh, and one really cool, when he straightens he's got a corkscrew that he wants to use as a weapon. He straightens it.
Like anybody else would do with a paperclip, he does it with a corkscrew.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Visually, most scenes are colorful and have a lot to look at, and the sets and scenery are great as well. The problem is it's a very slow-paced story, and a lot happens in this film, but it all feels kind of drawn out. This could have been a good mini-series if they had wanted to go that route. The main conflict arises between the pacifist Sang Hyun and the abused but vindictive Tai Ju. Which outlook is right? Again, it's a very slow-paced movie, but I did like it.
Okay.
You did not.
You're
Would you
allowed.
say a 1?
I give it a 1, yeah. Yeah, that's how entertained I was by it.
I'm going to go with a 7.
Okay.
It was a little slow. I'm not going to say boring. It was just very, very slow.
I was bored.
Okay.
Okay.
And you were also bored by a Serbian film?
No, I wasn't bored by a Serbian film. No.
The last couple of weeks, we've been looking at some of the most often banned, complained about, nastiest movies
Over
that
the
you can
top.
find.
Yeah, this is one of them.
And last week we talked about Grotesque, which was banned in several countries. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I said last time that I would have said that was the worst movie I'd ever seen, except for this one.
The most graphic.
And this week I'm going to stick with that statement.
Mm.
I think this may be the most graphic movie I've ever seen.
The blood, the sex, yeah. It's
The blood's nothing special.
but the sex and blood at the same time sometimes.
So we're doing trigger warning here.
Or, yeah, it's how we gonna,
Whatever the trigger warnings are, this is up there.
Are we allowed to use profanity in this? I mean,
Probably not. Try
So-
to keep beep, 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 keep it clean.
so many tender romantic love scenes in this movie. No.
Well, I got my review here is clean. And that took some effort. Oh, you know, I did so well with the Korean names. This is a Serbian film, for real.
I want to hear you try these names.
Director, Serjan Spasojevic. Written by Alexander Ravijevic and Serjan Spasevovic. I said that last name twice now. Stars Serjan Zika Todorovic, Sergei Trifonovic, and Helena Gavrilovich.
It is subtitles.
Da.
Yeah.
1 hour, 44 minutes. Link in the show notes if you want to pick this one up. It's unrated, by the way. Because if this was rated, it would be 12 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And note, this is mostly a clean review, but all the trigger warnings in the world won't help you with this one.
Yeah. To say sex and violence is putting it mild.
Very mildly.
Yeah.
A man and woman come out of Le Club Filth and have rough sex in the alleyway. The camera pulls back to show a little kid watching all of this in a porno movie starring his own father. His mother comes in and turns the show off. Milos, the porn star, said he was watching it because his old manager called and wants to meet with him later today.
Yeah, and the kid just found the tape laying around.
Yeah.
They weren't showing it to the kid on purpose, but he's too young to understand really what
He doesn't
was going on.
understand it, right.
Why were you wrestling that lady in the alley?
Yeah. And it's uncomfortable as they try to explain.
Yeah.
Milos has a huge shelf full of his old pornos, but he's retired and mostly respectable now. He meets up with his manager, Layla, the next day.
He was a very well-known porn star.
Yeah, very
top
successful,
of
one of the best.
Yeah.
She has a project, and she says it's artistic pornography of the highest level, she explains.
And there's a whole lot of money involved.
Yeah, more than he's ever made for anything.
Yeah.
Milos's brother is a cop, and he interrupts their meeting. She leaves, and the two men talk. Apparently, the manager has some special talent that made her a prime porn star in her day. We don't actually hear what it was.
We don't ever. No.
Well, we find out later.
Yeah.
Milos is bored and
yeah.
broke, and he decides to do the special project so he has enough money that his wife and son will be comfortable. He wonders why anyone would offer him so much money after he's been retired for so long.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, a car and driver are waiting to take him to this new job. He meets Vukmar, the producer of the film. Vukmar compliments Milos, calling him a great artist. And he's great because he always filmed his scenes on the first take. Vukmar says he makes films for special, exclusive clients, nothing for the masses.
And he wants art. He wants it real sex and real violence.
He shows Milos the contract, and the numbers are very, very high.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get to see the script, and Vukmar says if he knew what he was shooting, he wouldn't be as good.
There is no script.
Which kind of makes sense for some of this kind of movie, I suppose.
He just wants it to unfold and be real.
It's real.
Yeah.
Milos signs the contract, and then we see one of the strangest training montages ever. How does a porn star get trained up and built up for a new project.
Exercise, meditate, give up booze. Yeah.
Yeah, and some other things.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Yeah,
Milos's brother is crushing on Milos's wife. Milos then goes to the big house where they're filming, and a guy who looks very mafia-like walks out with his 2 bodyguards. Vukmar insists everything is prepared and perfect, and Milos has nothing to worry about. The day finally comes, and the driver gives Milos an earpiece so that he can hear instructions.
Yeah, he's given direction as it unfolds.
The driver then drops him off, and a guy with a camcorder is there filming from that point on. He goes inside, and there's another cameraman in there. He walks down a hallway with a woman and watches a girl get yelled at by her mother. And that's pretty much it the first day. He just stands there and watches. The second day, there's more mother-daughter drama for the camera.
And it gets weirder.
Afterwards, there's some kissing with the woman. The woman then gets him off while he watches video of the young girl putting on makeup on a video screen. That's about it for the second day. That's a little strange.
It gets weirder. Each time gets weirder.
That night, Milos calls his brother and asks for a background check on Vukmar. The brother's getting weird over Mrs. Milos. And the job is getting weird for Milos. And he's not stupid. Something more is going on. Layla tells Milos to suck it up and take their money. On the third day, Milos is blindfolded before getting in the car. That might be a red flag right there.
Maybe.
He watches a woman get beat up who then services him. A little girl comes in and Milos yells, "I can't work like this." And the man grabs him and tells him to hit the woman while she works on him. Milos tells Vukmar that he won't stand for any kind of torture, and that's the end of the third day. Vukmar's background check comes back, and there's really not a lot on him. He's a filmmaker, but he's never done anything anybody's heard of. Sounds like no big deal.
Yeah, harmless. Yeah.
On the fourth day, he really doesn't want to go in, but figures he ought to resign in person. He goes to see Vukmar. Milos starts to think Vukmar is insane when he says, The victim is the one who suffers most. Well, yeah. The torture, who's going to suffer? It's the victim. He shows Milos a video with a woman. Up to this point, there's been some sexy stuff, but nothing unusual.
A little weird,
yeah,
but nothing too untoward.
No, this would be barely an R-rated movie. Actually, did we see any real nudity in the porn scene in the first shot?
No. That alley,
maybe
first
his
porn?
Training montage we saw a little bit.
No, we didn't.
Sex
see,
and
we
nudity
didn't
has
see
been rather minimal at this point.
Yeah.
And then things change.
Oh, do they change?
He shows Milos a video with a woman giving birth. And then the guy who drives the car does the delivery, delivers the baby. Then the man does something awful to the baby. Milos hides his eyes. He can't watch. Vukmar screams, "It's newborn porn!" Milos leaves, but doesn't get very far before he passes out.
Yes, you heard that right. Yeah.
Something
awful. Newborn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which gives you I mean, this movie, how did, what? You're doing what now? What?
And like I said, I've seen this movie before.
I had to.
I didn't even remember this scene.
Oh,
the stuff that comes after it is so much more memorable.
Yeah. Well, I did, but yeah.
Yeah, it's something. He wakes up in his own home covered in blood. Okay, we missed something there.
He was drugged.
His wife and son are not there.
Nobody's there. Nobody's answering.
He goes back to Vukmar's place with a crowbar as he tries to remember what happened. As he goes in each room, he recalls what happened there.
Yeah, I liked how this was filmed because the second half is basically a flashback as he's retracing his steps.
Trying to remember
of the previous days, trying to put it, and it gradually comes back to him. He finds some films.
Yeah, he wakes up a day or so later.
Between watching the film and going to the places, he's remembering what he did and
He had been drugged with cattle aphrodisiac and forced to perform for the cameras
with
a machete.
Well, and the director's assistant there, she was a doctor. And it was, besides being incredibly strong aphrodisiac, it was it LSD, acid or LSD?
I didn't catch it.
And some special ingredients that she added. It was a real cocktail of
a special
stuff
mix.
Really screwed him up. Yeah.
So he's forced to perform for the cameras with a machete. He finds videos that show that Layla was involved with all this beyond just bringing him the deal, at least before they pull out all her teeth and chain her up. He then remembers it all in great detail. One act of brutal sex follows another until the drugged-up Milos eventually figures out that two of the people he performed with were his wife and his own young son. Then things get really bloody. Well, what'd you think?
I have to give it a big thumbs up because it's really well made and it's really entertaining, but boy, it's over the top.
This is the most over the top thing I have seen. I cannot think of anything that really matches this one yet. We got some more of these nasty movies coming up in the next few weeks. Maybe something will top it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is number one on a lot of lists.
I can see why it's unrated.
Yeah.
Because how would you there's no rating for it, something like this.
The cinematography and production values are really high in this one, especially considering the subject matter. It all looks really good. The first 60 minutes are well-acted normal drama with some slightly sexy bits. After that point, things get twisted and go way downhill very fast. Like I said, I'd seen this one before, and I didn't realize how much of a story there was before the weirdness starts. All I really remembered was the gory stuff, and the gory stuff is especially memorable. And if this isn't the most twisted movie I've seen, it's at least in the top 3.
It's the most twisted movie I've seen.
Yeah, I think so.
I think number 1. Yeah.
Well, there's a recommendation for it.
So it's a recommendation.
It's good in a really bad way.
Yeah.
It really high quality. It well done. Everything looks good. It's
super acting.
Extremely inappropriate.
Yeah. So that's our show.
Yeah. Get ready for next week when we will watch The Mystery of Edwin Drood from 1935.
Not the musical.
I didn't know there was a musical.
There was a musical.
It's a Charles Dickens story that was never finished when he died.
It's a fairly modern musical, yeah.
Phantom of the Opera from 1962. Freaks from 1932 is our over-the-top movie for next week. Black and white. It's basically based on a real freak show with real medical freaks.
Oddities, physical oddities. Yeah.
And the new movie, Morbid Stories from 2019. It's a mix of classic horror mysteries and some freak show horror as well. Sounds like fun to me.
Yes, it does.
Check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/horrorguys. Sign up, give us a couple bucks, and watch the exclusive episodes that are posted up there. And we'll see you next week. I'm Brian.
I'm Kevin.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Short tales of terror, ranging from classic tales of supernatural revenge to serial-killing clowns, alien menaces, and demons. Even death incarnate makes an appearance. If you enjoyed collections of short horror fiction when you were young, you'll enjoy these more grown-up tales. Definitely not for children. Inside, you'll find When the Clown Comes Calling, Menace in the Mural, Delivering the Demon, Silent Flight, Prisoner 2, Druid on My Doorstep, Dreamcatcher, How I Killed Grandma, or What I Did Over Summer Break, You'll Die Alone, The Hypnotist, The Secret, as well as the all-new Terror on the Appalachian Trail, written exclusively for this collection. Also included is the first installment in the Necropolitan Police series, The Ghoul. Written by Brian Schell, available at Amazon and wherever good books are sold.